The following is an exclusive high-definition presentation of the Little 500 on HDNet. Since 1951, springtime in Bloomington, Indiana has meant one thing: the Little 500. From Bill Armstrong Stadium at Indiana University, speed, strategy, crashes, and the taste of victory. The world's greatest college weekend begins with the running of the Women's Little 500. Next on HDNet.
Women's Little 500. A spectacular spring afternoon in Bloomington, and the world's greatest college weekend is underway. And the first of two pinnacles of this weekend, the women's race in the 2009 Little 500. Hello and welcome to Indiana. I'm Rich Cellini, a part of the country that takes their wheels and their racing seriously. The Little 500, a bike race, but not just any bike race, an intramural bike race that draws crowds as big as cycling over in Europe, which is cycling is an extremely popular sport. And for more on that, we welcome in the second member of our broadcast team, a man who raced with Lance Armstrong and has been all around the country. Dylan Casey, welcome. A wonderful festival.
Unbelievable. And I'll tell you, this is not just a good excuse to have a big college party. This is a serious bike race. These athletes have been preparing for months, if not years. Some of the girls, this is their second, third time coming back, trying to get a taste of victory. We're up for a really exciting race today.
And how about the crowds that come in and file? I mean, this thing engulfs campus. This is as important as anything that goes on at Indiana all year.
Absolutely. One of the biggest events on campus, if not in the whole collegiate region up here. These students have been preparing, and it's not just for the students, it's the alumni, it's the parents, it's the whole community. It's really amazing. You come into town, you can feel it buzzing immediately, even before the race starts.
Indeed, the townies are excited, and we have one of our own, the young man from right here in town, Jason Sonnenborn. Let's check in on a little bit of today's festive atmosphere.
Okay, so I'm down here on the track with Kappa Alpha Theta rider Jenna Johnson. They have the most lively crowd here today. Jenna, tell us about your fans. They've been on their feet for hours. What does it mean to you to have such a huge support today?
Oh my gosh, it means everything. We wouldn't be able to do what we do every day, all year long, without their support. We're quals that get up at 8 a.m. in the morning. We're missing out. They're here all day long, and they've been up since 9 o'clock this morning, getting ready to send us off for a victory. They're awesome.
Yeah, and tell us about that last-minute send-off. The crowd gets out in front of the house and cheers you out, right?
Yeah, the whole house comes out. We run out into a tunnel. They scream with their heads up, and we all introduce ourselves, and they get really revved up and send us off in a good way.
Great. And the other interesting about this team is we have Nicole Vincent, a former champion here, and her husband's the coach. Nicole Jordan now. Nicole Vincent Jordan. Tell us, do you ever second guess Dave's decisions?
Oh, all the time. You'll probably see me behind the pit yelling and screaming all day today. But he knows to look at me first before he makes any important decision. So,
So for the Thetas, it's a family affair, and we'll see who's making the ultimate decisions in the pit.
Well, the excitement certainly palpable. Who's doing better than Jason? Are you kidding me? He's got his arm around one woman. He's got, pedaling over there. Nobody's better than him.
I'll tell you, he's definitely in the middle of all the action right now. He's got the best job of all of us, I'll tell you that for sure.
As we put a little bit of our focus and start looking at last year's past champion, what are your thoughts on Delta Gamma?
Well, once you win, you always have an advantage because you come into the next race knowing that you've done it before. You know how to deal with all of the down times and the up times, how to deal with adversity if you have a crash or one of your teammates gets sick before the race. So they definitely come in with a huge advantage over some of the other teams.
All right, let's take a little look, a little bit more about last year's 2008 Little 500 Women's Champion. Alabama will win its first ever Women's Little 500.
Riding last year was awesome. I mean, Little 5 is awesome in general, but when you win, it definitely puts the icing on the cake. It was a really good experience.
Like, I still am not quite sure if it's hit me yet, and it's like a year later. They've shared the stories of how great the team was last year and how great we are this year, and just how much it would mean to them winning again.
Joining the team after the girls won last year, I mean, there's a lot of added pressure as a rookie, but it's really an honor to ride with these girls, and it's exciting that we're a strong team again.
It's going to be fun, but it's definitely going to be scary just because it's my first race, and you know, there's that added pressure.
Everyone kind of looks at certain teams on the track every year as contenders to win, and I would say that wearing the yellow jersey definitely puts us in that category. It kind of puts a target on your back. Everyone's going to be looking for it on race day.
I think we're a lot stronger, but I mean, I don't know. It's still a lot of pressure. I mean, definitely we're the ones out there with the yellow jersey, so we're definitely the ones to watch.
There will be a big target on our back, but it'll be fine.
As long as everyone, you know, leaves it all out there, like you ride for your teammates, you ride for yourself, things work out how they're supposed to.
Our team is very strong. We're a very solid team, and all of the girls are great riders, so I mean, we have just as good of a chance as last year.
I definitely think we have what it takes to repeat. We're just going to have to really work really hard and try not to make little mistakes.
A lot of other teams are strong too, so it's not going to be any easier this year than it was last year to win, but I definitely think that we have what it requires to win.
I mean, to be up there would be incredible. I don't think there would be an experience like that. I would really love to experience it, especially with these girls, and you know, if that happens, it would be great.
If we won twice, it would be pretty awesome.
The second win would be really exciting.
I mean, it makes it all worthwhile, you know, and even if you don't win, like, as long as you leave it all out there, like, you know, you've done what you're supposed to, but winning again would be really cool.
One of the parts that jumps out when you watch that piece is the level of dedication by these women and how tough you have to be to race in this. It's a physical sport.
Absolutely. You know, you see 4 girls that make the team, but there's actually a whole group that are competing for all those positions leading up to the race, you know. And they talk about coming into the race being the favorites and having this big bullseye on their back, but I got to tell you, that adds a lot, because sometimes when you show up to the race with the expectation to win, you put yourself in the position to win. And that's half the battle here. You'll see in the beginning laps, everybody jockeying for a position because likely there'll be some big crash. And if you're behind that crash, your race can be over in the first couple laps. So it's actually a good thing in a lot of ways.
Well, there's certainly more to the field than just Delta Gamma. And for more on that, we go back downstairs to Jason.
All right, I'm on the infield with Garant Perry. He's a local publisher of BloomingtonVeloNews.com. He's certainly a man that's in the know. Garant, who are the teams here that we're going to look for to be around for the checkered flag today?
I think we got 5 teams to look out for. I think one independent team, Wing It. We got 2 of the sororities, Delta Gamma and Kappa Delta, and then TIDA, the dorm team. Wing It, without a doubt, the most interesting story of the day. They've got one rider who's head and shoulders above everyone else in the race, Christy Hewitt. She won ITTs, she won Missing Out by a country mile. She led her team to 4th in team pursuit on her own, essentially rode the whole time. So the thing with that team though, it's a one-man team. They don't have anyone else really of the same quality as Christy, so when Christy's off the bike, the other riders have to really attack them, and that's going to be the crucial part. If Christy and Wing It are on the lead lap with 20 to go, they will win the race for sure, I think.
And Garant, how is this win going to impact the race today? You're also a coach, so how's the win going to impact the field?
I think it's going to be big, especially, as I said, those teams like Delta Gamma and Kappa Delta, they're going to have to get away from Wing It, and it's going to be difficult in this win for a small group to go off the front. I think it's going to be hard that on the back stretch, the wind's really strong, and I think it's going to be difficult for those teams to work together, for sure. But if anyone can do it, I think Kappa Delta can do it. They won 2 years ago. They've got 2 really, really strong junior riders. The two girls, the two juniors, Jennifer Balbach and Jenna Cerrone, they did a great job last Saturday in team pursuit. They took their team to within 2 seconds of the all-time record. They're looking really strong, and their coach, of course, won the race 2 years ago, Norm Hoos. He knows how to win this race as well. So if they go off the front, they can definitely hold it if they get away on their own, I think.
All right, guys, so you've heard it down here from Garant Perry. He's also a Category 3 or Category 4 hammer, coach of Chi Omega. He's gotten in the game a little bit with the pink hair. So
it's a fun day. A little bit of tradition to do my hair the color my girls are wearing, but it's just a fun day, and it kind of blends in with the crazy students in the stands as well. It's a fun day. I love it.
How's your team going to fare today?
Hey, if we're top 15, then we'll be very, very happy, I think. So we're looking to be one of those middle teams. So I think we're going to have a good day. Definitely.
All right. Good luck, Geraint. We'll go back up to the booth.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. What do you think of Geraint's predictions heading in?
Well, it's interesting because he talked about the Christy from winning the ITTs, and Teeter has won the ITTs for the last 2 years and has come up short both times, and they've won again. So it's going to be interesting to see, or they have the pole position rather. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can overcome this curse.
You might have a little salt and pepper in your hair, but I think I like it better than pink.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
All right, we're going to step aside and take a break, but before we do, this race is by the students. It's for the students. They've raised over $1 million in scholarship money, and we have a little piece on the Little 500 by the students of Indiana University.
I had a race stream last night.
My social life as compared to the guy next door to me or the guy down the hall is very different.
And I just went berserk, and I was yelling at our riders and telling them what to do.
What the,
And I woke up and I was just jazzed. I was psyched. I was pumped. And I was ready to go ride.
I don't really care about the whole building tradition. I just want to beat everyone.
And then I realized it was 7 in the morning.
Just talking to a lot of people, they only see it as a party. And I don't necessarily think that there's anything wrong with that.
You gotta be out here to have a good time. If you take it too serious, there's something wrong.
When we came in as freshmen, our team was a joke. We were doormats.
A little intense.
Yeah. That's what motivates me.
So this year I expect we will be in full force.
We'll be right back with more Little 500 on HDNet. Welcome back to the Little 500 on HDNet.
Inching closer to race time here at Armstrong Stadium. Fans have filed in, the racers getting ready, and for more on some of the specifics that make this race unique, let's go back downstairs to Jason.
Here for the 2009 Women's Little 500, and we're looking at two bikes right here. We have one of Dylan Casey's professional racing bikes, and you'll see some differences between this as well as the Little 500 bike. Major differences: hand brakes on this bike. Road racing bicycle, you can brake with the hands. Little 500 bike, no hand brakes. We use a coaster brake here, and the riders will need to press down on the coaster brake in order to engage it. The other big difference is the gear. On this professional racing bike, we have many gears. We have 2 chain rings in the front, multiple cogs in the back. Single speed Little 500 bike, 46 teeth in the front, 18 in the back, 1 speed. They call it the great equalizer in the Little 500. The women are not going to be changing gears into that headwind today. Another thing to take into account, with the warm weather, no water bottle cages on this bike. The women won't have any hydration or refuel while they're on the track, and that will be important for them throughout the day. So here's our Schwinn 2009 Little 500 bicycle.
All right, thank you, Jason. Certainly an interesting standpoint. I'm sure not many people know about the specifics that go into this race.
Well, it's funny. They Specialized sent us out one of their Roubaix SL2 bikes that was just used recently, a couple weeks ago, to win the Paris-Roubaix race. 250 kilometers over some of the toughest cobbles in all of Northern Europe. And then you're here at the Little 500 on the cinder track. It has a very specialized bike. Not to use that as a pun, but they have these special dirt tires, special wheels, and it's really interesting because there's such a huge tradition behind the bike. In fact, a lot of the teams are trying to get their hands on the bike as far in advance as possible. So there's a couple of things that they can customize. They can change the handlebars, they can change the stem, they can change the saddle, but for the most part, all the bikes are the same, and each team gets 2 that they have to share between 4 riders. So they have to deal with different sizes and stuff like that. It's actually quite one of the interesting aspects of this race.
You talk about that cinder track, and it can be treacherous at times for the riders. Thrills and spills, part of the Little 500.
Well, it's interesting. I think I've seen some of the riders from previous years wear the cinder in their arms as a badge of honor. And I'm sure Jason's probably got a few cinders in his shins and elbows, and I think that's just part of the nature of this race. An interesting thing also is that it's a dry day. So, in fact, they spend a lot of time kind of preparing the track for the race. They come out here and they water it and they stamp it down. And over the duration of the day, you all start to notice a groove on the inside. And as the riders come in and do those changes, they get out of the groove and into some of the loose cinder. And sometimes it gets a little hard to handle the bikes.
Well, we're inching toward our thrills as we get ready for the start of the race. Let's take a look at some of the epic spills in the Little 500. Festivities still continuing. How about some of those spills? You talk about cinder. You're being serious when you say people still have pieces of cinder in their arms and legs?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, they have a tent on the infield, and I think it's one of the tents you don't want to visit because that's where they actually do all the scrubbing. They have to take a wire brush and scrub it out. It's actually pretty painful. But yeah,
pretty painful. I think everybody who's ever ridden a bike as a youngster growing up has had a few spills, and the last thing you ever want to think about putting is a wire brush in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just one of those, it's the cost of doing business at the Little 500.
You know, we have something, all riders going to wear a helmet. We're going to have some color-coded this year, so they can be out and about. We'll be able to identify riders more. But as we take a look at these two, really, what's the difference?
Well, it's funny. Actually, these are the same helmets, but this one you'll notice has a visor on it. And I don't know if we did this on purpose, but, if it were raining out here, they would want this visor because I've seen in previous years when the weather was really bad, the riders by the end of the race are just covered in dirt. In fact, you'll have the cinders kind of coming out of your ears and eyes at the end of the race. So this will really help kind of deal with the weather. But today it's really nice and dry. Actually, the sun's out, so they won't use that. They'll use this setup right here. The other nice thing is that we have 4 different colors, and each rider has a specific color, and they've given us the information ahead of time, so we might actually know who's on the bike this time. In previous years, it's so unbelievably challenging to keep a hold of which rider's on. You have all these exchanges. It's total mayhem out there, so hopefully this year we can do a better job of calling the race.
Yeah, and you know what? We talk about some of the big celebrities that come out. None bigger than who was here a year ago at the Little 500. Soon-to-be president, Barack Obama.
Honestly, I was so nervous before the race, and when Obama came and strolled through the infield, it kind of broke the ice, and it was just that one thing that kind of made me take a step back and just sort of resettle and go into the race with a more open mind, I guess.
It was awesome. I was so nervous because it was my first race ever, and then I saw him and I'm like, he's got way worse problems than me, so it kind of chilled me out a little bit. But it was awesome to meet him.
Meeting the president was cool. It was the first election that I was ever able to vote in, so meeting the person who won it was cool. And that, in line with winning the race, was just amazing. It's something that a lot of people don't get to do.
Yeah, the Little 500 continuing to draw celebrities and luminaries and other heavy hitters, and the neatest part is drawing all of the students together, and especially the alumni who have come back from years and years, decades even, to come back and be part of this festive weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like I said, you can feel the energy as soon as you come into town. And it's not just a 2-day event. I think they try to make it a week-long event where everybody's coming into town and celebrating, getting back together. We saw the girls from Delta Gamma talking about, the nerves and dealing with oh, having Barack Obama show up and kind of, break the ice. And, that's one of the things that the girls have to deal with on race day that they don't ever have to deal with. And so they're down there right now. The bikes are getting lined up. They're still trying to warm up and stay loose. But it's really those nerves that they have to deal with and try to overcome as they start to get ready to prepare for the race.
Time now for our invocation with Father Bob Keller.
Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you please stand and remove your caps.
Please join the IU Student Foundation in welcoming the Reverend Father Bob Keller from St. Paul's Student Catholic Center for today's invocation.
Let us take a moment of prayer. Today is your race in the running of this annual IU Legacy. You competitors have prepared diligently to engage this challenge with untold hours of training. Now your dream depends on muscle, rubber tires, and heart. Strength and endurance will be measured by laps, and indeed a winner will emerge from among you. But truly, you are all winners by virtue of your love of excelling in athleticism, your sportsmanship in the heat of the race, and the honor you share as teammates. Such attributes were also embodied by Mr. Doug Tate, a cyclist for Delta Chi in 1978, 79, and 80, who recently died, and for whom we take a moment of memory. We therefore pray for the safety of all competitors. We pray that what we do here this afternoon will reveal human integrity, our zeal for IU and for scholarship, our mutual respect, and add our effort to the legacy of the Women's Little 500. In thanks, do we offer this to the source of all energy and all hope. Amen.
Presenting your colors today, and we ask that you please remain standing with caps off, the Pershing Rifles Color Guard from Indiana University's ROTC program. IU's Pershing Rifles Color Guard is a competitive drill and honor squad consistently receiving high marks in national and regional competition. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now to introduce to you the Smith Sisters, our featured vocalist for the presentation of our national anthem in this 2009 Little 500. The Smith Sisters, IU students Stephanie, Jennifer, and Lindsay Smith of Greenwood, Indiana. Stephanie is a senior who will graduate in 2 weeks with a degree in journalism. Jennifer, a sophomore studying policy and analysis and Japanese. Lindsay is a freshman this year studying speech pathology. They've sung for numerous sporting events, including the Indiana Fever, the Indianapolis RCA Tennis Tournament, and IU Women's Volleyball and Women's Basketball games. They're active musicians at St. Paul's Student Catholic Center and were MCs for this year's IU Sing. The sisters also are recording artists who may be heard on YouTube. Please join the IU Student Foundation in welcoming the Smith Sisters as they present our national anthem.
So proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes
the Smith sisters, ladies and gentlemen.
Continues to grow here at Armstrong Stadium.
It's funny listening to the national anthem. I can remember waiting for races to start when I was racing and hating that part, because it's like your nerves or your heart's about to jump out of your chest. And everybody's standing around waiting, and you can see the girls congratulating each other, kind of shaking hands. And they're all friends right now, but as
we're
soon
going to
as
have
the
a little
finish
more,
line,
yeah, with Straight No Chaser coming up.
Straight No Chaser.
Back home again, and they let the balloons fly here on what has become a pretty blustery afternoon.
Yeah, you know, I can see the flag. It's basically pretty much flat, showing a headwind on the backstretch and a tailwind on the front stretch. You know, it's really going to play into how the girls race today. You know, we talked earlier about the preparing for the sprint, and the fact that when you're coming into the headwind, you want to be first coming into the last corner, because when you come out into the tailwind, it's pretty much an equalizer, having the tailwind. So it'll be an interesting race today.
And here is Felicia Leggett-Jack, the head women's basketball coach at Indiana, getting ready for what we've all been waiting for.
Yeah, you can feel the tension. She's definitely trying to get the crowd up right now.
Please greet the women's basketball head coach for Indiana University, Felicia Leggett-Jack.
I have to practice my words, and I don't want to mess this up. So, ladies, ride smart, keep your head up. Good luck, and Godspeed. Now, on behalf of the women's basketball team and our athletic department, the 3 words you've been waiting
moments away from the women's Little 500. The race when we return on HDNet.
Facing the starting field for this 22nd annual running of the Women's Little 500, the official car of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Driving today's pace car, Mr. Tom Marks, President and Chief Executive Officer of the IU Alumni Association. He is accompanied by Pam Willig.
We'll be right back with more Little 500 on HDNet. Welcome back to the Little 500 on HDNet.
Getting ready for the start of action of the 2009 Little 500, the women's race. And the pace car out in front of the racers. And take a look. Break this one down. Dylan, your thoughts on just how important starting position is or isn't?
Absolutely. I think the first couple of laps is really important. You know, we see Teeter and Wingett and the Amy women on the front, and they've got a distinct advantage of staying out of trouble, but then they also have to take the responsibility of setting the pace. But like I said, coming in is actually really important. On the second row, you know, it's the same responsibility. You're at the front. You've got to lead the race, but you're staying out of trouble. We've got Kappa, Delta Gamma, Delta Sigma Pi, and Alpha Gamma Delta on the third row. Again, strong teams with a history of winning here.
When you go through qualifying, you look at where you're going to set up. Do you have a spot where you say, if I'm in the first 3, 4, 5 rows, I'm still okay trying to stay out of trouble with the less experienced riders near the back?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're in the first third, you know, you're pretty much going to, you know, have the opportunity to stay out of trouble. It's really where you want to be in the first part of this race. There's no doubt about it, and that's why there's such an importance laid on qualifying. You know, qualifying also kind of tells everybody else who's good. Something to think about. You know, it's really interesting. A lot of these teams, some of the, obviously they're named after their sorority houses, but then you have a team like Wingett, and you wonder, well, where do these names come from, right? And every year there's a couple of teams that have an interesting acronym or a name that references something, and I haven't quite been let into that sorority yet to figure out how the naming process works out, but it looks like we're getting ready to go here.
Now we'll take a look at some of the rules. The women's Little 500, 100 laps, 1 mile each turn, 25 miles total, 4 riders per team, and a relay style. Tell us a little bit about how many switches you need to do throughout the race.
Yeah, that's right. So not any one rider can ride the whole race. So you can't just have one girl ride all the race and then put your last 3 at the end. So they actually have some rules around how many you're supposed to ride. And also there's penalties, and you'll actually see some of the girls, if they commit one of these penalties, they have to spend time in the pit, and that can make or break a team, especially if you're in the lead.
And the crowd starting to build. And we are underway in Bloomington.
Immediately you see Teeter take to the front. You know, it's going to be hard, especially into the headwind in the backstretch, but I'm telling you, this is the best place to be. And the race is going to have a rhythm. In the beginning, it's going to be really fast. Everybody's fighting for position, trying to keep it strung out, stay out of trouble. And we already have a crash.
And on the far back side, it's something you had told us to be aware of. Had 4 riders getting piled up, but look at that, Kappa Alpha Theta already made a move and has made a move around the outside to take that front starting position.
And we see that there's still, oh, and there's the yellow flag. There's the yellow flag. So now what happens is that everybody's supposed to maintain their position more or less, and that includes the gaps. So if there's a gap between one of the riders, you're supposed to maintain that the entire time until the green flag comes out again.
And so you're trying to figure out where to stay and how much distance you're supposed to keep from an end of a sportsmanship end.
Yeah, it's kind of an on your honor thing, but you know, it's total chaos now. You can see coming out of the corner, and I'll guarantee you what happened is one of the girls overlapped wheels, just a touch of wheels, and all of a sudden you have a huge pileup. Yep, right there, you see it. She went down, and then it's just a huge chain reaction right behind her.
Kappa Alpha Theta is the one who took the hard spill.
And the mechanics job, they need to make sure that the bikes are, you know, if one of the girls' bikes breaks or whatever, that they switch it in and out really fast. So a lot of the mechanics are kind of stationed on the infield, right across from their pit. You'll see them with multiple wheels and a spare bike, a work stand, and it looks like maybe one of the riders has a broken collarbone, which, as we all know, is kind of the cost of doing business in bike racing.
Green flag has been waved again.
And again, Teeter is setting the pace. They know that not only is this the safest place to be, but this is a great way to make a very good first impression and kind of intimidate some of the other riders.
A push on the backside quickly from Delta Gamma. Teeter, Wing It, and Kappa Delta in the first 3 slots.
Here comes your lead pack once again. Coming quarters down, ladies and gentlemen.
So Jason, we have Jason back up in the booth with us. Tell us a little bit about what's going through the girls' mind right now. How long does this first set typically go?
First set's going to be between 5 and 15 laps. It's really going to depend on the strength of the riders. The first lap's all out. It's hard to hold your adrenaline back, so you have a really fast first lap. They calm down a little bit under yellow, and you'll see some girls try to sit in a little bit, right, and then they'll start to work for that gap once they work into their set a little bit.
How much of the number of laps per rider is predetermined prior to the race?
That's a great question. At one point in time in the race, they charted everything out. They say you're going to ride 10 laps this set, next person's going to come on and do 7. I feel like it's more of a flow, and I think the race has changed and evolved to, they think on their feet today, right? And you just don't know going into the race because you're going to wait and see how people feel, you're going to wait and see what other teams are doing and see what kind of position you're in throughout the race.
Right, and the coaches also kind of keep an eye. They can kind of tell when a rider is starting to fall apart with, you know, maybe bobbling the head a little bit, the shoulders are getting tense, and he might, you know, give a hand signal or say, okay, it's time to do an exchange.
Sure, and that's the last thing you want to see out of your rider, and you're telling them to come in as soon as possible if they're starting to fall apart.
Certainly still jockeying for position. Kappa Delta, Delta Gamma, and Kappa Kappa Gamma.
That's no surprise to see Kappa Kappa Gamma on the front. They're not one of our favorites this year, which is a surprise to me, but they know the front very well.
You know, we're 5 laps into this race, and it's already down to 22 teams.
And is that the norm that you would expect as things start to roll through and finding how quickly you can whittle down the true contenders?
We just see another crash happening on the backside, and unfortunately, it's one of the girls in the lead pack. And you know, I think part of what's happening here is there's a really big headwind on the back section. So what happens is the bunch kind of tends to spread apart, and since they don't really have brakes, it's pretty easy to overlap wheels and hit the ground.
There's a huge headwind on the back tail. I don't know what it is. It looks like 15 to 20 mile per hour wind, and what the girls are trying to do on the backstretch is echelon a little bit. And so 2 things are going to separate the field today. You know, strength and wind, I think, are really what's going to be the deciding factors.
Yeah, you know, we saw some of the mechanics over there trying to untangle the bikes. It looks like it was a big mess over there. And another crash.
Far turn, and that was Alpha Phi, who was out there by herself.
This is unfortunate. This looks like a, well, you have Katie on the front, and you have a rider down right now.
Yeah, that definitely is going to pull out the yellow flag. She looks like she might be hurt.
See the yellow there from Mike Howard.
And that far turn has continued to be hazardous right from the start of the race.
Absolutely, you know, and again, we talked about how important it is to be out in front. I think also something that's unique about this race is that they come out of turn 2 into this 15, 20 mile an hour headwind, and it completely, you know, just blows you around, and you get off into some of the cinders on the edge. And I think some of the tires just, you know, you can see her tire right there just slide right out from underneath her.
And what causes that?
Well, I think, you know, like I said, it's the headwind combined with some of the loose cinder on the edge. You know, we're starting to see the groove on the inside, but she was up on the upper part of the track where there might have been some loose cinders. Just all crossing our fingers right now, hoping that she didn't break a collarbone.
Yellow flag.
Yeah, certainly you're going to see. And one of the things the yellow does is certainly we're wishing well wishes and prayers go out to that young lady. What the yellow also does for the riders that are on the track is that it gives them a chance to rest, and what we're doing is eating up laps, right? So there's more of a chance you'll have a larger field at the end of a race if you're eating up a lot of the laps under yellow.
Right.
Tryouts, a 2-second penalty. Delta State had a 2-second penalty. Linus cycling a 2-second penalty.
You can see Alan Smith there. He's in the pink. He's a mechanic for Phi Delta Theta and also Alpha Phi. We'll give it one more look and see if we can catch it. She's on the outside of your screen.
Yep.
Well, she just got wobbly. So we've got, and I honestly believe on really warm days like this, you get it dries out the track and you get loose cinders. And it looked like her front wheel just kind of gave out on her. So right, we're not racing on the road here, Dylan. This is a little 500, and we've got some cinders.
Absolutely, and I think that plays a big factor into this race. You know, you were talking about the difference in the bikes in the road racing bikes, very narrow tires. These tires are a little bit wider to handle the cinders, and we're back on green.
You see KD on the front. That's one of the teams that Garan talked about. They're gonna drive it right now. Teeter's right on their wheel.
That's right, looking over her shoulder saying, okay, I've done my pull, now it's your turn to take some of the responsibility. They want to share some of that workload.
Teeter indeed lunges back into the lead. You know, a point both of you had made prior to us going on was that how much energy can be conserved if you're riding off somebody's back tire.
And that's going to be the trick today. It's not a true headwind on the backstretch. It's really kind of a side wind. So it's a mix of right behind and a little bit off to that right shoulder, right? So you get an echelon draft.
Absolutely, and if you're strategic and if you're smart, you want to be one of the teams that's actually pulling in the tailwind and sitting in the headwind. Because a tailwind effectively neutralizes everybody because nobody's getting any type of benefit. However, when you're going into the headwind, you save up to 30%.
Sure.
So you'll see some of the riders that will actually pull down the front stretch and then look to somebody else to do all the work on the back stretch into the headwind.
So Dylan, are you speaking from experience a little bit? Did you spend more time on the front or more time sitting in?
Well, I have to say it depended on what my job was for the day. I definitely have racked up the miles on the front, but I was always trying to use my head as much as my legs.
I learned early on, too. I tried to find the sweet spot in the pack. Well, that's not what KD's doing right now. KD's out there driving it.
And that is a big push from Kappa Delta.
Well, absolutely. And we see one of the exchanges right there and just how important it is to make those exchanges smooth, because if you don't do it right, you actually find yourself back in the race and off the back.
Here comes our leader. Kappa Delta was getting a gap. You see her do a bike exchange. Right, good gap.
Tell us a little bit about how the bike exchange has to take place.
So what you have is two pit lengths, and the rider getting on the bike is just going to take a couple steps out onto the track, a couple steps before her pit, and it's just a hard brake, slide into the pit, and a touch is what it is. You need to touch the rider.
And there's two types of exchange. That was a bike to bike,
sure.
Where sometimes they'll use the same bike, and there's a different technique.
So there's two bikes, right, that each teams have, and so they must have had significant height differences between the rider getting off and the next rider getting on, so they do a bike to bike.
That's right.
So Dylan, is there anywhere else? Have you seen, this is kind of like a track race out here with these exchanges. Have you seen another race like this?
Yeah, well, you probably know the real history here, but this is very similar to a race that they have on the velodrome in the Olympics called the Madison, where you have two riders and they take turns exchanging themselves into, the race position, so to speak. That's the only thing that's even close.
Agreed. And both of those riders stay on the track at one time with a hand sling.
Yeah, that's right. They're both on the track at the same time. This is the only race. This is the only bike race where you have a true relay.
And the other thing that really stands out is the crowd.
Yes. Unbelievable.
Other than the Tour de France, do you see many races with this many people out?
Well, I have to tell you, Jason, I got to attend the Tour of California this year, and with Lance Armstrong coming back with the whole Livestrong and the Astana team, I was completely blown away at the size of the crowd. But yes, you're absolutely right. Little 500 rivals any crowd at any bike race in the world, no questions.
Well, and Lance has just as much fun at Little 5 as he does Tour de California.
That's right. It's funny. I think he was here in '96 when he was recovering from cancer, and he had quite a few good things to say about it, because I mentioned to him that I was actually coming out here, and we shared a few old memories together.
What a weekend.
So we've got some good racing. We've got Christy Hewitt on the bike there for Wing It. She won individual time trials, and I've heard that she's the strongest rider out there.
Yeah, and the key is she's the strongest rider out there, and it's going to be so important that they use her at the right time. And you see her put, oh, that was not a good exchange.
So what happens here is she's going to kick the bike into the, kicks the bike into the back leg there, and that's not what you want to do. It's so important to run parallel with the track. Right. Keep it in a straight line, and unfortunately, Faimi wasn't able to do that there.
Well, and they actually spend a lot of time practicing these exchanges.
Sure, for months, and actually every day after class, there's a requirement they come out and practice on the track. But it's a lot of fun learning how to do exchanges. There's a couple scars that go along with that.
Yeah, there will be scars added to the list after this women's little 500 today. And the race, as you had talked about, finding its flow now.
Yes, that's right. You know, we're 16 laps into the race, and it looks like we're already down to roughly 20 teams. And it's kind of a little bit of a lull after the start action and crashes and everything, and everybody's starting to find their groove. You know, we see kind of the same teams at the front pulling. Everybody else is just trying to stay out of trouble, stay at the front. And eventually what will happen is some of the riders might actually start to throw down some attacks and break it up a little bit. Jason, who needs to break up this race today, and who needs to just keep it together for a sprint?
Well, the girl in the front, Christy Hewitt, her team's just going to try to keep it together. She really stands out for them, and she's going to count on her team to keep it together. I've heard Cap Alpha Theta is looking to attack, right, looking to string it out. DG and KD are also strong.
So you actually see the girls there, you know, talking to each other, looking around, trying to see how the other riders are feeling, trying to get a sense of what they're looking like. You know, are they squinting? Do they look relaxed?
Is winning this race based on endurance or more on strategy because you have enough riders to get through a 25-mile race?
It's a great combination of luck and teamwork and strength. And luck definitely plays into it. Today it's going to be a lot of smarts, I think, with the win. Really, it's going to be a calculated effort each time you're on the bike, thinking about where you need to be to protect yourself, get your team to the end. Look at that. You can see the Theta rider really kind of down low, looking at the aerodynamic into that wind. Looks like she's going to come out for an exchange. So here you see the ghost exchange from Cap Alpha Theta. She'll hop off the back of the bike. The team in the white. Oh, a beautiful exchange.
Great exchange. Right into turn one, puts her right at the back of the main field. You know, when it's interesting doing these exchanges on the front stretch, it's going to be really important that you're back on the field, back on the peloton right away. Otherwise, you have to chase into the headwind by yourself.
Here comes Christy Hewitt. She's certainly a marked woman. You see DG following her into the pit. This is the first exchange for Wing It. She's just done a 19-lap set, which is really, really impressive. You know, earlier we talked about the range being 7 to 12. There you saw Christy knock out 19, which is huge for her team.
Again, a good exchange. Put her right at the back of the main field so that she doesn't have to fight too hard into the headwind as she's coming back. You know, look at this on the front side. Teeter really throwing it down right now, and it looks like she's coming in to do an exchange. Jason, tell us, what do they call that when you're coming in to do an exchange and you kind of get ahead of the field a little bit?
Well, it's a gap, it's a burn, right? You're trying to get a huge gap on the field, and she's got it. This Teeter rider's just really nailed her first set. She's got plenty of time to set up and just coast with the tailwind here.
Is your strongest rider your first rider?
Well, it typically is. It really depends. It really depends on the dynamics of the team.
Yeah, that was really, really an excellent exchange. Put her teammate right back in the front. I mean, she really didn't even have to pedal that hard to get under the front of the group.
Yeah, Teeter and Wing It, you can see those first two riders really pushed forward.
And that was Caitlin Van Kooten. Chris Wojtowicz, their coach, told me that she is just a power horse for her team. This is her first race for Bloomington, Indiana. She really killed that first set.
It was a great set.
14 minutes and 41
Looks like
seconds.
Kappa Delta coming in for an exchange.
Fast time for your lead team. 20 laps to go again.
Nice exchange for them. They're looking smooth. She's got to get down into the drops. There she goes.
Yeah.
Then team number 6,
Exchange for Kappa Delta and Kappa Gamma with the exchange as well.
In 6th place,
The women's
Wigan,
Little
team
500
number 2.
here on HDNet.
In 7th, Athena, team number 21.
And a quick look at our leaderboard before we step aside for a quick break from Bloomington, Indiana. On a windy and warm afternoon. Delta Gamma, Teeter, Kappa Delta, Phi Beta, and Wing It at the head of the pack. Back to Bloomington after this timeout. Welcome back to Armstrong Stadium. Rich Cellini, Dylan Casey, Jason Sonnenborn. And the women's Little 500, the world's greatest college weekend.
Here we are, 25 laps in. You saw Army come in for an exchange there off the corner. KD's driving it at the front.
I'm really shocked. You know, we're 25 laps into this race, and I mean, we're down to 11 teams on the lead lap.
What's the role of those who are still in the race but not on the lead lap?
Well, you know, I think a lot of them are, at this point, you know, they're racing for pride. I mean, and to be honest, anything can happen. So you gotta stay in it. You know, these girls have spent so much time preparing. You don't want to give up just because you're not in the lead group. But to be honest, it's got to be hard because it's windy out there today. You know, you see it in the exchange, like that one right there. It was just horrible because she slipped and fell right down. But
And just to talk a little bit about the race, it is really important to win, but I tell you what, like participation and just being around for the race, it means a lot to these women. Some of them are shooting for top 15. Everybody has different goals, and it's really about just achieving your goal, right? Setting an objective and meeting it.
Is part of it, if you're not on the lead lap, are you expected to stay a little farther to the outside, or can you just keep and hold your position even if you are going to get lapped?
Yeah, that's right. The officials will move you to the outside if you really are slowing down the pack, but if you can ride with the leaders, and we're on this just oval track, you're allowed to stay with the group. When it comes time to sprint at the end, though, they will get the teams that are lapped, you know, out of the mix.
You know, and in fact, they actually use the same flags that they use in the Indianapolis 500.
Makes sense.
Yes, that's the name.
We even had the pace car today.
we do. And you know, so you'll see the chief rep down there on the start line with the flags, waving the girls, saying, "Hey, you guys need to move out of the way. There's the lead pack is approaching from behind."
And okay, what you're seeing here is just a beautiful tactical move from Teeter. That she was sitting 4 or 5 deep, right, and then it's sort of a surprise attack into the headwind section, which is a little bit of a surprise to me. But she's got a good gap. She's coming in for an exchange. Let's see who we have there. That's Julie Benanista from Munster, Indiana. Chris Wojtowicz's hometown.
Yeah, and she's doing an exchange to Jackie Muller. And a great exchange. You know, Jackie's put right back in there at the tail end of the front group. So she really doesn't have to expend too much energy to get back on there, which is really important when you come down towards the end of the race.
And Jackie's veteran, her third Little 500. How much does experience play into your hand, into your favor as a racer?
Experience is one of the most important things because you just don't know what to expect until you've done it. So if you haven't done a race before, you rely on the older riders and the coaches to get you up to speed. But experience is really crucial because you can't simulate race day. You can't simulate all these fans and the heat and what goes into this.
Jason, what was the biggest surprise to you that somebody could have never explained to you when all of a sudden you got on the bike and you're here at the Little 500 and there's 20,000 people and you just thought somebody could talk till they're blue in the face, but it wouldn't register to me?
There's just so much going on. It's really about staying focused. So the biggest surprise was just the activity and the pageantry and what's going on. People yelling at you behind the pit, people trying to talk to you that aren't your coach or aren't a part of the team. You've just really got to stay focused.
Dylan, from your end and all those professional races out and about, something that you learned along the way that could only be learned through experience?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because the Little 500, if you haven't done it before, there's no warm-up races. When I was racing, we had plenty of races. We raced 100 days a year, and you know, everybody had the big focus, whether it was the Tour de France or the Tour of Spain or Paris-Roubaix, and you'd have races leading up to it that you'd use as preparation. But you know, the truth is I can imagine that it's got to be pretty difficult to prepare for a race when you have one shot. And, you know, Jason touched on it. You have all of these outside elements that you have to deal with on race day that you never have to deal with on any of those other days. In fact, I think it's true. Jason, tell me if this is still the case, that a lot of teams will actually spend the night or the couple nights leading up to the race off campus, away from their normal kind of routine, whether it's living in the dorms or the sorority house.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's such a team race where you're relying on your teammates the whole time. The important thing to do is to be close to them, right, and to get away from all the distractions.
Right.
Yeah, so we used to we'd get hotel rooms. You know, you stay in people's homes off campus, but you try to get away from a little bit of the partying. Save it for next week, right?
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, you can see the field on the backside completely stretched out into the headwind.
And that's Kristen Method on the bike for Kappa Alpha Theta. They're in the white. She looks like she put it in a little attack, and she's really driving it, trying to up the pace. Teeter's got her covered. You see Army women in third,
Right
Kappa
now.
Kappa Gamma, and Delta Gamma.
Now, see, we're down to 7 girls right here, 7 teams, and they have the opportunity to blow this race wide open. If Teeter comes through here and does a nice hard pull on the backside, you know, there's a small group trying to chase back on. They could be blown right off the back immediately.
And if you have that opportunity to blow somebody out of the race, do you take it?
Absolutely, because that's what it's about. You want to get this race down to the fewest number of teams possible towards the end, because it increases your chances of winning.
Delta Gamma with a little sprint along the outside.
There you go. They're going to come in for an exchange. That's a bike exchange.
You know, and this is going to be tough too, because there's only 7 girls in the front group. So she doesn't have a big bunch to catch up onto. So she's got to have a nice, smooth exchange and really sprint back onto the back of that front group.
That was Kristen Heath getting on the bike for Delta Gamma, and that's Kelsey Kent getting off the bike. They're in a unique spot, defending champions, you know, yellow jersey on their backs. They're a marked team today. You see Kristen's gotten back in the pack, though.
Yeah, nice and smooth. Get an opportunity to kind of catch her breath, assess the situation, look around, see how some of the other girls are feeling. She's got, you know, 70 laps to go. We're just a third of the way into the race.
Phi Beta Phi, team number 6 is out front, then it's team number 5.
With your stronger riders, how many laps would you hope to get out of them?
Christy Hewitt really pushed what I thought was the top-end threshold on getting 19. I think, 10 to 15 is a really good set for these women. In shorter sets for maybe the bottom-tier riders would be maybe 5. But, yeah, you try to push them towards 12 or 15.
And then how many sets would you like to get out of your top rider?
Well, you probably want them rested for the sprint at the end. So you're looking to limit that, and that's really where the team strength comes into play.
So having a little bit of a lull here. Nobody really wants to take responsibility. Staying at the front, but not too much at the front. You don't want to burn all your matches right away.
I think this pace, we have some really balanced teams, and then we also have a really, really fast girl in Christy Hewitt, who set the individual time trial record. So this slower pace favors the red team. Wing It, with Christy on the bike right now. She's able to eat up some laps. You haven't seen her out on the wind much yet. And I think what we're going to see is the other teams like Teeter and Kappa Delta and Kappa Alpha Theta trying to attack Wing It throughout the day.
And that's a big gamble, right? Because if you spend all of your energy attacking, and Christy's able to just kind of sit in and follow the wheels all day long, those other teams expend all of their energy, and Christy's had a free ride to the finish line.
Teeter with the exchange, Caitlin Van Kooten, the history major.
A lot of stuff going on all at the same time. Exchanges, different groups coming around.
It's Delta Sigma Pi out on the front right now. They're coached by a former Cutter rider, Eric Hamilton. He's got them riding very well today.
And you mentioned a former men's rider as a coach. That is more of the norm than the exception.
Well, that's right. It's really kind of as I mentioned when I was down in the Theta pit, sometimes it's a family affair. And there's a lot of alumni that love to help out and coach. And both men and women do coach this race. As you see Dave Jordan talking to his rider in the pit. You can just see the grimacing on the face there in the backstretch, Kenny. You honestly do not ride in winds like this that often out here. We've got a very, very windy day at Bill Armstrong Stadium.
Well, let's talk about the heat a little bit. I mean, it is an unusually warm day relative to what the weather's been like the last couple of weeks, so that could be having an effect on them as well.
And that's one of those small details that you sometimes forget about, because this really is an endurance race. It's a race of intervals. So sometimes you do forget about the bananas and the hydration and all those little things that go along with the heat.
Yeah, it's right. You know, you see the girls will come off of an exchange and get into the pit, and it's really important that they stay on their bikes that they have set up on the trainer so that they can keep the legs loose, stay warmed up, hydrate, stay focused, not get too lethargic.
It's fun to see how far we've come. They used to do exercise bikes down in the pit, right? The kind of exercise bike you'd have in the gym or at home, and now and actually they used to have sofas as well. But that's part of the fun that I think goes into this. Today they've upped the game a little bit, and we have trainers and rollers down in the pits. Lots and lots of history that goes into this. Lots and lots of history. 21 years for the women. The men's race started in 1951.
What an evolution to go from, just an idea and an end-of-year celebration and, gee, this looks like fun. Maybe we could organize it and try to do something to give back to worthy students and help out with some scholarship money to see where it's grown to today.
Sure, it's really special what they've done, and just in the tradition that goes into it. The fact that we run this race with all volunteers, right? All students who want to take a leadership role and put something on that's really this special.
Safe to say one of the few places in the country, Jason, where if you're a bike rider, you're the big man on campus.
You're one of the big men on campus. We'd like our basketball team to be more of the big men on campus, but I think, and hopefully we can get back there. But you're absolutely right. In the springtime, being a bike racer in Bloomington is what you want to be doing.
And what's really neat about that is, it's one thing to follow, the intercollegiate sports that go on in at a big-time university, but also looking at, this is an intramural event that's taken as seriously by the students around here as anything else that goes on, and the leader out in front.
Yeah, this is a big move by Theta, and you'll notice she's got quite a gap there. And Christy from Wing It is I think it's Christy's trying on the front to pull. She's trying to get some help from Theta and also from Teeter, but that's a pretty big gap.
Great move by Theta. Really setting it up. Last year they had a little gap and didn't know what to do with it. We'll see if they can take this quarter lap lead and make it grow.
Well, and this is really going to come down to relying on your coach to give you some input, and he's telling her just to go for it, full gas.
So she's got about a little bit less than a straightaway. The pack's picking it up a little bit as Kappa Gamma moves on in front. Cap is never afraid to pull. You have to give them credit for that. They're taking a little bit of the workload right here. Now you see KD coming through.
Can that be a strategy that works, getting out as far in front as you can and just hoping to hold on as you come down the home stretch?
Well, the reason it does is because the race is always up the road from you. It's not behind you, so you need to focus on getting up the road, right? So you don't know what's going to happen behind you, and it's good to be up the road and be on your own. There's Dave. He's got a smile on his face. He's looking for her to hold it. That's Aaron Axley on the bike for Kappa Alpha Theta. That's that crazy pit down there with all pink. They're gonna keep that girl moving. So, they need to make a decision. It looks like they're starting to pull her back right now. He left her out there quite long, right? 3, 4, 5 lap sets are a little bit lengthy. When you have a gap, we've seen a lot more success over the years doing short sets and really kind of keeping that gap.
And they're going to make an exchange.
So the pack is still catching up with number 5.
Oh, and I don't think she sees it, that she's supposed to come in for an exchange.
No, you're exactly right.
She missed it, and it looks like Teeter's going to close the gap. you know, this is a great opportunity to launch a counterattack.
Right?
One of the other teams that's been sitting on it, it looks like we're going to see it on the backstretch.
When you talk about miss of an exchange, does that mean they missed it to signal the previous lap around?
Yeah, it looks like she didn't understand that she was coming in for an exchange, and she's going to be really on the limit right now. Hopefully she'll just be able to grab the wheel and recover.
A lot of teams queuing exchanges off of that breakaway attempt right now. You see Delta Sigma Pi and Kappa Kappa Gamma both going to come in, and the Theta rider can't get out. Oh, she's actually braking. That doesn't look good. A little bit of confusion there for the Thetas.
Yeah, it shows you just how important communication is, because now she's so gassed that she's going to get dropped off the back. She's got to really punch it right now.
This is a real moment of decision she's got to make right now. She can't give up, right? She's made some mental mistakes there, not coming out.
Right.
Erin's got to kind of hold her form and pull it back together.
Yeah, this is a moment in the race that can either like make it or break it for Thetas right here, right now.
Oh, and she's absolutely hit the wall. She's
you know, it's definitely swing out this time and get to the pit.
That's right. So she's going to make an exchange.
Guys, this is possibly the race. We're about halfway in right now. We've got a lot of action. Teeter just went down, which you didn't see. Theta brought it in off the back. And the teams on the front, Wing It, Kappa Kappa Gamma. Oh, actually, Kappa Delta's got a lead. Right there. There's our leaders, Kappa Delta and Delta Gamma. They've got a little gap on everybody else.
Now,
this is where it's going to get fun, Dylan, right?
This is the race right now. Now, the girl from Teeter who crashed, that's actually could be the best thing that ever happened for the Theta team, because this might be her chance to get back on. If they can team up and both work together, they might be able to get back up to the front. But I'll tell you, this race is being blown apart right now.
This reminds me of racing I've raced in Denmark and in Belgium. This reminds you of the heavy winds that you're racing over there. We've got splits in the field. We've got a number of packs right now. Teeter's in the third pack. They're going to bring it in for an exchange. That's Jackie Mulligan back on the bike for Teeter. Well, you see people looking around. I think you want to make the race at this point. I'm surprised they're looking around.
Absolutely. I mean, we're down to 3 teams on the lead lap. This is it. They should be going for it. But that's also exactly why Teeter shouldn't give up right now, even though they're off the back. You know, they might have the opportunity to catch back on.
It's Wing It in the lead, team number 2. Team number 7, Delta Gamma. Team number 11, Kappa Kappa Gamma.
Here, Chuck Crabb, our PA, announcing our leaders. Wing It, and that's Jamie Boswell on the bike for them. There's Theta trying to close the gap. I think that's Jenna Johnson, who we were down in the pit with earlier.
So amazing how Theta, you know, you can see from winning the race, having a huge gap off the front, to having a huge gap off.
The early lead, Kappa Alpha Theta, but as we've seen, having a lead can certainly evaporate quickly.
Sure, so many things change here a little bit. You know, and it's really interesting how that happened, right? They had a gap, and the next thing you know, a mental error, and now they're off the back.
And we saw so many physical things happen early with crashes, but then you just see those.
She's trying to hand signal. She's like trying to get out so that she can make the exchange, and she couldn't. But you know, sometimes you just got to muscle your way out. This isn't a game. They're not out there to make friends right now.
And the mental lapse was trying to come in too late.
That's right.
You saw her close to her pit by the start-finish line. She needs to be working her way out here in turn 4. So we've got our leaders. They're back together. They've slowed down a little bit. We'll see if Kappa Alpha Theta can catch. Kappa Kappa Gamma riding well. Kappa Delta in black.
Kappa Delta, who won the Little 500 in 2007.
You know, here we are again. We have Teeter, the pole.
Oh, and a spill by Kappa Kappa Gamma.
Right on the front.
The front group, yellow flag. This race is getting really difficult to call just because there's so much going on.
This wind's really changed it up for us today. Let's see if we can see what happened.
Just a little bit of loss of concentration, you know. They were at the halfway point in the race. Girls are tired. Great job of holding it up there, but you know, just a little bit of a bobble. She overlapped the wheels. The girl in front of her slowed down. A huge chain reaction.
You talk about bobbles. What causes the bobble?
Well, you know, it's just like a momentary lapse of concentration. You kind of look over your shoulder a little bit, The girl in front of you slows down at the same time. You're looking over your shoulder, you touch wheels, and it just happens faster than you know.
Yeah, the pace slowed down. They have no handbrakes. And what she was doing was she was overlapping, and the Kappa Delta rider moved out a little bit, and she couldn't react in time. So the front wheel hits the back wheel, and she's on the cinders.
Caution flag. Lap 50. The rider is instructed to maintain position. Alpha Chi Omega.
It's really unfortunate for the Kappa rider there. It didn't.
Yeah, you can see that they're just absolutely crushed. They went from being in the position to win the race to being spectators.
It's not. It's. I agree with you, Dylan. They're going to have to. They're going to have to catch. We'll have to look at this and see if they're lapped down now.
Your leader in the black jersey, Kappa Delta team number 4.
So Kappa Delta's in the lead right now.
Wing second, Delta Sigma Pi in third.
Winging in second. Delta Sigma Pi in third.
Well, I think Kappa's still on the lead lap. That happened right in front of their pit.
Yeah.
So I think Kappa's got a good chance of pulling this back together.
Yeah. Okay, we're back to green now.
There's our leaders, KD, looking really smooth. You know, you don't see a lot of bob in her pedal stroke, right? She's kind of keeping it together.
She has a great position, good form. You can tell she's focused.
That's Jenny Cerrone on the bike for KD. KD's finished in the World 500 19 times. They've been in the top 10 8 times. So they're certainly a good team. They're coached by Norm Hughes, who also coaches the Alpha Tau Omega team. She's got a little gap right now. Gosh, this is exciting with all the gaps, all the action going on.
It's unbelievable. I can't believe we're already halfway through the race. It feels like we're just the first 5 laps.
Oh, and you see Delta Sigma Pi closing that gap. Great move by Delta Sigma Pi.
Yeah, now
she just jumped riders, Dylan. She jumped from the second group to the first just like that.
That was a great move. You know, we could have a 2-rider breakaway right here. It's really up to Wing It right now. It looks like on the front to close that gap.
This is just a brutal hammerfest riding into the wind all day.
So we have Kappa Alpha Theta and Kappa Delta on the front together.
There's Kappa Gamma. Exchange for Wing It.
And that's really an attempt to get a fresh rider in there to try to close that gap down.
Christy's getting back on the bike for Wing It. It seems like she's been on the bike a lot for them so far. As the Thetas need to dig themselves out of that hole. You know, they had a mental lapse, and this is where teamwork kind of goes into it right now.
Yeah, they really have to rally in the pit right now. The coach needs to get these girls all together, stay focused. You know, we're only halfway through this race. It's not over yet.
Feels like we've had about 7 races within the race already, and we're only halfway through it.
It's unbelievable. You know, and I think that's just tells you what this wind will do. A little heat, so just completely changes the race.
Yeah, Dylan, what does a 16-mile-per-hour wind do to you after?
What would those two be exchanging, conversing about?
Well, you know, they're probably telling each other, look, you know, the race is down to us. Let's make it happen. Let's not waste this opportunity. You know, maybe the other girls, awful exchange by Teeter.
And painful.
You know, it's just, it seems like Teeter is cursed. This is the 3rd year in a row that they've, you know, won the team pursuit and thus have the honor of wearing the green jersey of the pole position. But it's just, the race is falling apart for him.
I really think it's the wind and pure exhaustion going into this. You very rarely ride into this type of headwind. So these girls are just absolutely slammed right now. They're pegged.
So you come up with the points made earlier about you don't get any warm-up races before going into this. You have a cinder track, and now you have conditions that you're not accustomed to.
Absolutely, you know, and it's really something that they've never had the opportunity to really train in either. So they're making it do on the fly. So it looks like we have the 4 teams together, or, you know, you can see the flag there. It's just pretty much flat.
It's just biting into them. It looks like KD's going to come out. Delta Sigma Pi's moving up the track. Here's the KD exchange. Oh, good exchange for them. Good exchange. She'll get down in the drops. You get more leverage in the drops.
Risky gives it to Ariana Brecker.
Pats on the back, and you see the KD rider. She's going to move up. Wingett's actually in the lead right now. It's Christy Hewitt for Wingett in red. They've got those two together. Actually, Delta Sigma Pi there as well. This Delta Sigma Pi rider's been out there for a while. She's just, you know, hooked up a very, very large set, putting her team in a really good spot right now. Really good spot.
And she's kind of looking over her shoulder, looking to see, okay, who's going to come up here and help me?
You can really see the facial expressions when they ride into that wind, how much of a struggle it is.
You know, it really is. You know, we're a little bit past the halfway point, and these girls are just trying to hold it together.
So we have 5 together on the board.
That's Jenna Blackburn on the bike for Delta Sigma Pi, who's done so much work today. She's from Bedford, Indiana. Actually, home of Elliott Stone Company, and where a lot of the limestone quarries were the Breaking Away was filmed after.
Right. So, you know, I see that we have, it looks like 5 teams on the lead lap here. Really all came back together.
See KD pulling through.
This we believe to be point 7. Campbell in the lead, Delta Sigma Pi, Wingett, Kappa Gamma.
Jenna's just riding a huge set right
Team
now.
number 6, Pi Pi, Delta Gamma in the white jersey. We'll give you the official standings at 60 laps.
So Dylan, what are they thinking about right now in a small group? Are they thinking about when to take their turn on the front? Or are they thinking about, you know, how to find a sweet spot in draft because the wind is so heavy? Tell us about everything that's going through their minds.
Well, you know, we just got past this like moment of chaos where we had a crash and a couple of bad exchanges and the front group really getting whittled down, and now they're kind of settling back down into a rhythm. They want to stay at the front, stay out of trouble. They don't want to use up more energy than they have to stay there. And it's a little bit of a lull in the race, but you know, I think what's going to happen eventually is that we'll see another attack by one of the riders that really doesn't want to leave it down to a 5-person sprint.
Yeah, you talked about out here and competing and winning a race. We also touched on some of the fundraising that goes on, and nobody does it better than the Zetas fundraising out of this women's little 500.
It really is amazing how much energy that all of the teams and the sororities and fraternities and the student union put into this event. It really is an all-year event. Even after the race is complete, they're thinking about the next year.
BMOC is our philanthropy event. It's Big Man on Campus.
We do it in the fall. It's this huge guy talent show. It's bringing us all together as a house and as a campus and as a community. We're fundraising, sending out letters, selling t-shirts and tickets. Everyone on campus knows what BMOC is, and it's such a great feeling to be part of something that's that big, because even nationals and everyone around knows exactly what we're doing.
The fact that we can get the whole campus involved is what really is amazing. Everybody supports us so much, and it really wouldn't be the huge event it is without everyone else's support, because we couldn't do it alone.
It's for breast cancer research and awareness.
Basically educating women to be aware that even at a young age, it's very possible that breast cancer can affect you.
1 in 8 women in their life will be affected by breast cancer, and we've had girls in our house that are affected directly. It just means a lot to us that we can help out with that cause.
It's important to me because I actually have had 3 family members affected with it. I mean, you stand in a room of women and they know someone or someone close to them that's been affected by it.
Last year we raised $178,000.
Big number, I know. It's absolutely amazing to feel that you did something so much bigger than yourself.
I think the work that we put into it is definitely worth it. Not even just hearing the number, but just seeing the show and knowing that we came together as a house to put that together. And there's always a lot of people that come and watch it, and it's just great knowing that we have so much support from our house and other houses and just the campus as a whole.
I mean, I'm so proud of all the girls. It's over 100 girls, and they all come together, and truly couldn't be done if everyone didn't. Everyone really puts in all they have.
178,000.
I think the best part of the event, personally, is reaching that total, is all that hard work you put into it, and you know, staying up late doing things for everybody and making sure everyone else is okay, is just to hear that totals and knowing that you did as best you could on what happened that day.
I love seeing the guys that have been putting in so much time. They are just as emotional, I think, as we are about the total.
I think it brings us closer as a team. I think it brings us closer as a house.
I think just the group as a whole, as us four, we're very easy to get along with, and we have so many different kinds of personalities that it keeps things lively and fun, and that's why I think we work really well together and we have a little fun together.
Well, touching story, and you know, just more of what goes on in this large Greek system here at the great university in Indiana, home of the Hoosiers.
And there's two things the Student Foundation does during the year. They do IU SIG, and we also do Little 500, and both of them obviously you know, benefit people in different ways. It's really impressive what they pull together throughout the year.
Back to race action.
So I'm just told we have 7 teams on the lead lap. You know, it's amazing that during all that chaos, when all the crashes and everybody was literally scattered around the track, that these 7 teams have found themselves back together on the lead lap.
And you see Kappa's right back in at the team in orange after that wreck. I think wrecking right in front of their pit is what enabled them. They had to run another bike out, run another rider out. What enabled them to stay with the leaders.
That's right, and it looks like they're getting ready to do an exchange. Look at the wind. I mean, you can absolutely see the cinders blowing down the track right now.
Well, and Theda's back as well. We have to give them a lot of credit. They obviously, you know, got their heads back in the race and rebounded from that wreck, and now she's stringing it out. You can see you got to be in the present, and you kind of have to also be looking up the track to see what's ahead, and she's got it going for her right now, just pounding it.
It's great to see her back on the lead lap. You know, unfortunately, you know, who's missing from this group, of course, is Teeter.
And I've just got word Wingett's off the back right now a little bit. They were one of our favorites.
You know, and this is when they should be thinking about doing an exchange. It looks like she's coming in to do one.
Kappa Gamma does do the exchange. And those gusts of wind, feels like they're getting stronger as the afternoon goes on.
Definitely.
We saw 25 miles per hour on the last flash, so it's a very, very windy day, just pounding these young ladies. DG stringing it out, that's Delta Sigma Pi. I think that's still the same Delta Sigma Pi rider on the track that I called, you know, 10 or 15 laps ago.
Yeah, she's really doing an impressive set. You know, she's not only riding near the front, but doing a lot of work.
There's DG, our defending champions. They've really got this race back down to a science, having a couple great races in a row. Coached by Ryan Knapp, a former Black Key Bulls rider. One of the things that the Delta Gamma team has is they have a yellow chain today. I was down there talking to Ryan before the race, and he said, you know, very few opportunities in your life do you have to come with this amount of style, right? In the yellow jersey, bringing the yellow chain.
That's right. You know, they got some yellow bar tape. When you earn the right to wear that jersey, you really have to celebrate it and you know, take the opportunity to let all the other teams know that you're there to lead the race.
The pink shoelaces of Kappa Alpha Theta driving it on the front.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting that these teams, you know, for the Little 500, you have to wear regular tennis shoes. You can't wear clipless pedals in the racing shoes.
That's right. I didn't feel like I touched about that enough in the bike segue, but you're right. They're not wearing clipless pedals, right? They're not wearing shoes that allow them to pull up on the pedal stroke as well as down. You're wearing those running shoes because you're doing a lot of running with the bike as well as riding it. And another thing, Dylan, I think you've seen this in the past. There's a yellow chain for Delta Gamma, but sometimes when you have variances in height, they'll actually do a little padding on their heels, right? A big heel to extend them, right? So the shorter rider can ride a seat height that's a little bit higher than what she'd be accustomed to.
Thedas will do an exchange.
Great exchange. Theda's able to just, you know, sprint right back onto the back of the lead group, which is really important with this blustering headwind on the back stretch, because if she has to do too much time by herself, it's a waste of energy.
White passes the bike off to Axley.
You know, we see Teeter there down at the bottom of the screen about to get lapped.
That's a surprise.
Delta Sigma Pi really just a great showing today. They're a business fraternity on campus, just, you know, lining it up. One of the first years they've been on the front.
You know, wind still blowing here in Bloomington, and the women's little 500, and there's a pack that is out in front. We'll step aside and return to Bloomington with more of the little 500 here on HDNet.
We'll be right back with more Little 500 on HDNet. Welcome back to the Little 500 on HDNet.
Back
yeah,
at
so
the
Wingett's down a little bit. It looks like they're out of it.
World's greatest college weekend, and some of the teams that we thought would be favorites falling off the pace.
Yeah, it looks like Wingett's just down right now. They're looking to catch. Some of our more balanced teams are still out there just crushing it. Delta Sigma Pi on the front. She started with the tongue out there. Often that could signify something. Maybe an exchange coming up, who knows?
Yeah, that might be a team signal for get me out of here.
Have some water and Gatorade ready.
You know, what our viewers at home don't know is that below us, where we're actually calling the race from, is an entire army of people keeping track of what's going on in the race. Jason, tell us a little bit about what's going down in the press box right now.
Well, they're keeping track of teams they need to contend with. They're also looking at the number of laps each rider's riding on their team as well as the target teams. What you're trying to do is you're trying to match riders up on the track at the same time, and just be aware. There's 33 teams, but you're only racing against 7 right now.
That's right. We see Delta Gamma do another exchange there, and a great exchange because she's put back in right at the tail end of the front group. Delta Sigma Pi also doing an exchange, and you know, she's got a little bit of a gap to close, which is not ideal, especially if she's coming out of turn 4 into the headwind.
She's got a little bit of a gap, and with 25 laps to go, you really want to limit the amount of times you have to chase.
So at this point in the race, being in front is the spot to be?
Well, actually, you want to be second or third as much as you can, because, you know, ultimately you're staying out of trouble there, but you're not doing a bunch of the work. And you know, the smart thing to do in this situation, you're down to 5 or 6 teams on the lead lap. You have a headwind, tailwind situation. You want to be in the front. Take your pull in the tailwind section. Let one of the other teams pull into the headwind section.
Saw one of the mechanics sprinting across the track right there. A lot of action down there. There's Kappa Gamma going in for an exchange. She really picked up the pace there.
You know, she really did. You know, I would love to see one of these girls kind of fake it, where they're like, yeah, I'm going to do this burnout to do an exchange, but then actually keep going.
That's where the fun starts, and that's actually one of the ways that Delta Gamma kept going and getting a gap last year, our winner last year.
That's right. Call that the fakie. You know, it's really hard. These girls, you're going full gas to do the burnout to get in front of the front group so that you can do a smooth exchange, and then you have to do this exchange and your arms and your legs are just absolutely burning. Yeah, and then you come to a standstill.
Well, try running after you've just, you know, done one of the hardest intervals of your life. It's not easy to do.
See another rider down. I don't see the yellow flag.
That's the Army women. They're not having quite the day they had hoped for there.
Oh, look at that, just get away. And
yeah, you know, again, it's a combination of the wind and the loose cinders. Because it's so windy, the groove isn't really getting formed. It looks like she's okay.
Could have been a bike problem for him. I'm not really sure what happened there. You saw him bring another bike out.
She's definitely going to have some battle scars to show tonight. You can always tell the riders who spent some time on the cinders after the race, maybe down where all the students are celebrating because they'll be wearing bandages. And in fact, probably badges of honor in some cases. I don't think they have to wait in the line very much out in front of Kilroy's. Isn't that right, Jason?
I don't know, Dylan. You know, you never got too many pats on the back for hitting the cinders, right? I mean, you know, yes, but no.
Well, we'll see. We got, you know, again, it's a little bit of a lull. We're down to 20 laps to go. Looks like Delta Sigma Pi really trying to dig hard here to close the gap. You know, they had a bad exchange, and she's not that far off the back, you know, and here you see Delta Gamma not really pedaling that hard. And maybe if she knew that Delta Sigma Pi was trying to close the gap, she might give it a little gas.
That's where communication from the pit to the riders comes into play, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that they were not pushing the pace there.
Right. Well, you know, you can see it at they're riding. They're gutter to gutter right now. And that just signifies that they're slow. They're going slow. They're looking around, trying to figure out who's going to take responsibility.
These girls are beat. I have not seen 25-mile-per-hour winds in a day like this for the women's Little 500, and they're just exhausted.
Yeah, and you know, they have to kind of keep track. Well, which one of these teams here with us in the front group are lapped, and which ones are on the lead lap? So they have to really be careful and pay attention here.
Team number 4 is third, Kappa Delta.
The team in the pink was actually a lap down. You saw her sitting in. Hey, if you would like to ride in the front, that's fine. I'll go ahead and sit on.
Sure, absolutely. You know, we saw the girl from the Army there talking to the Delta Sigma Pi, saying, "Tell you what, maybe we can work out some sort of deal. I'll work for you guys." And
here we've got to move. And Dylan, you know, when the pack slows down, that's sometimes the time that you guys attack, maybe spice it up a little bit. That's what KD's doing.
Absolutely. The two best times to attack are when it's going really, really hard or really, really slow, and try to catch somebody off guard.
And that is a powerful move by Kappa Delta.
You know, just increasing their chances of winning, right? You know, when you're off the front, you don't risk that wreck in the pack. So there's a lot of good things about it. Right, she could get away, she could dangle, but she's really kind of riding her limit right now, which is a good thing.
Yeah, you know, what's interesting is that you see Kappa out in front, and then Delta Gamma trying to close the gap with Teeter on her wheel.
Teeter's trying to make up ground.
Well, you know, it's interesting there because she's basically helping out Delta Gamma even though she's a lap down. You see Kappa Delta on the front. She's all by herself, but see, you can see the Teeter rider in green right at the top of your screen who's doing most of the work. Here comes Delta Gamma around the front to do the pull.
Kappa Gamma, our team in orange.
Delta Gamma.
Looks like Delta Gamma coming into an exchange.
Let's watch this exchange. They've done a lot of bike exchanges. Here's another one. And actually, you can see Wing at the team in the red there. They were one of our favorites who have just been lapped. Delta Gamma has not been lapped. Our team in yellow, they're riding well, our defending champions.
So Wing has been lapped. Wing is one lap down.
And we've seen the teams who have fared well throughout this women's Little 500 have been able to do clean bike exchanges.
Definitely, clean bike exchanges, especially when there are crucial moments in the race, are really important. And not only at the crucial moments, but then over the entire length of the race, just because the energy that you waste when trying to do those exchanges really you pay dividends on those at the end of the race.
And we've also seen some of the sloppy ones, so it's not nearly as easy as these teams are making it look.
No, not at all. You know, and Jason was telling us that these girls spend, you know, hours and hours practicing this almost every day.
Oh, and we see some of the mishaps and how much time that cost you just on, you know, as you guys, I think, called it lack of concentration.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it could take you from being in the front of the race to out of the race, just like that. You know, I think what we're seeing here is that it's not always the strongest team that wins, or it's not the team with the strongest rider that wins. It just takes so many different elements that all have to come together on race day in order to really get to the finish line first.
This is a good one. 15 laps to go, and Kappa Alpha Theta is coming in for an exchange.
You know, you see Theta trying to do that ghost ride move where she grabs the saddle, and the idea is that she's going to kind of slide off the back and push it forward so that her teammate can just grab the handlebars and take it. And sometimes they actually let go of the bike, right? They call that the ghost ride exchange.
Yeah, sure, the ghost exchange. Yeah, it's a pretty exchange when it works, isn't it?
It's like a ballet.
So Devin Gamma, team number 7 is in the lead. Captain Delta.
There's the Army women. They're not going to let their day completely get away from them. They're still riding strong. Maybe looking for a top 10 or a top 15. I think they are a lap down.
And they're going to make an exchange. Wingate going to exchange as well.
I'll get confirmation on the Army women. They may be on the lead lap.
And look at our leaders.
Doesn't look like it.
Even though Army's not on the lead lap, you got to give them some props for their color coordination between the shoes and the helmet and the handlebar grips. They've got a good kit. And we see here Theta out in front again. You know, out in front, off the back to being off the front. These girls are really putting out an effort today.
And Dylan, you're onto something. I mean, it's about riding well. You also got to look well out there. You know, you got to bring in your best.
You got to bring your A game.
Kristen Method and Kappa Alpha Theta in front.
You saw the tongue out there from the Tita rider. They're still hanging in there with the lead group. She'll probably come out for an exchange on the next lap. So Katie to me really looks like one of the strongest teams. And that is the team that Grant picked. So we'll look to see what happens with only 13 to go. It's really, everything's really crucial right now. There's DG. You can hear him talking a little bit. I think DG told her she was going to come in on her inside.
Right, and you know, I mean, they have to make a decision right now because Theta's off the front, and if they try to get too complacent, and say, you know, it's too many laps to go, it's 12 laps to go, she's not going to make it. You do the work. No, you do the work. I mean, they could very much see the race slip away right in front of them.
And you saw the Theta rider looking real confident. She gave a little head bob. You just don't know what's going to happen. You have a straightaway lead. She could get away. That's how Delta Gamma won last year.
Theta's going to make another exchange. They're going to hand it off to Aaron Axley.
So this could be the last set, or maybe the second to last rider for Theta. Who knows? You know, with the headwind, that could actually make the sets even shorter.
Yeah, I think with a lead like this, they'll try to do 2-lap sets or something like that. You know, 2 to 3. It's just really hard to hold, you know, max effort. I think teams are better with those shorter sets when they're off the front.
That's right. And essentially, you know, that exchange might have just eliminated that lead lap, but
well, she's fresh, so she can either go on the attack right now or sit in.
And yeah, she's just really got to nail it and make Delta Gamma chase.
And they go for the attack.
With 11 laps to go, it's the right time to be aggressive, and that's what Theta's doing.
Absolutely. You know, we have Aaron Axley. She was also the one that initiated the first move that we saw fall apart. She's back out there doing it again. And this is really crunch time right here. This is really where she has to lay it down, because the girls behind her, you know, they're not fully committing to chasing her down. They're kind of pulling. They're a little bit disorganized. They're thinking about, well, do we need to be doing exchanges?
And they've got some lap traffic to work with. It's not a clean group, so this is really, really good move by Theta right now.
That's right, and Aaron just needs to fully commit herself right now.
Kappa Alpha Theta, the overall Spring Series champ, 4-time Women's Little 500 winners.
Looks like she's going to get caught. If she gets caught, she has the option of maybe sitting in for a little bit and going at it again.
Absolutely. I mean, that's definitely the best move. Attacking when it's going hard is always a great way to win a race.
Kappa Gamma closes it on Kappa Alpha Theta.
So she's looking to her coach, you know, should I keep going, stay in? But she definitely should get off the front immediately.
Yeah, you're exactly right. What she does not want to do is go past her red line and not be able to bring in a good gap and a good exchange, right? She's got to know her limits, and she just, you know, she may have reached them. I think that's what happened to Aaron last time, and let's see if she learned from that.
Right. Well, you know, maybe she's coming in for an exchange. No, doesn't look like it, but she definitely needs to get off the front of that group.
As you see Kappa Gamma on her, Wingate, who's a lap down there, the team in red, and Kappa Delta, the team in black, looking pretty good in that 4 spot right now.
Absolutely. You know, this might be their strategy, is just to sit in and let the other teams make the race and save themselves for the last lap, because at the end of the day, that's the only one that counts.
Hard to fathom when you watch all that's gone on throughout this race that it does come down to that one final lap and all the things that can and do happen throughout the course of a race.
You know, it's true. It's just like all the stars and planets have to align perfectly for a team to win.
And it's right here. You know, we're on 92. We have 7 to go. So this is right. The race is made right here in these last 7 laps.
And it looks like Theta's going to come and do an exchange.
And they're going to hand it off to Brittany White.
And so Brittany's, you know, she has a little bit of a gap there that she's going to have to catch. She's going to have to close, and she's going to have to do it into the headwind section, which is hard.
So I hate to see that. I think Erin just has been pushing herself all day. May have pushed herself a little bit too hard there, brought it in off the back.
Right.
Theta's going to catch back up, but they are forced to close some gaps right now. Katie is smart. Katie, the team in black, is really smart for pushing it.
Absolutely. I mean, she should throw it down, maybe even do another exchange.
There you go, KD.
And you can see the Theta rider right there in the back going up the gutter. She needs to get to the front immediately, and she knows that. Get around the lap traffic. And, you know, the lap traffic's really going to play a factor in the final laps here.
So Theta making a move on the backside.
Moving up a little bit, knowing she needs to get in good position.
Delta Gamma out in front.
Yeah, and what you see is Kappa Kappa Gamma off the front right now. They're hugging the team in red, Wingett's wheel. She's going to come in for an exchange. Lap 94. 94 of a 100-lap race. You can hear the crowd starting to pick up. It's crunch time right now.
Catherine Sauter has the bike for Kappa Kappa Gamma.
Kappa Delta really throwing it down, but, you know, she's got a small gap to chase. You can see her in the gutter there, almost, you know, crossing that white line. She's got to be careful there not to get penalized, but she's got to close the gap and get back to the front immediately. And, you know, dealing with all of this lap traffic just makes it that more difficult.
Delta Gamma going to do an exchange as well.
Pandemonium here. We've got a lot of exchanges, people all over the track. Katie's got to kind of work their way through that. There's Delta Sigma Pi also on the lead lap. Team in gray, team number 8, Delta Sigma Pi.
4 laps to go.
Oh, it's right here. I'm starting to get the butterflies going. This is getting exciting.
And, you know, you see Teeter on the front. They're a lap down, but, you know, they're actually dictating the race. You know, they're changing the race, which is really interesting. And it's unique to the Little 5 that lap riders can actually still have an effect on the race. And it looks like Theta is going to do another exchange at the same time that Teeter is.
Indeed they do.
Both good exchanges. You know, Theta.
Only 3 to go. They're getting their fresh rider on the bike.
Yep.
Kristen Method in the black helmet. Kappa Alpha Theta.
It's going to be up to Kristen. And you can see Kappa Delta on the backstretch really pushing it because she knows that Theta is trying to close the gap right now. So you can definitely see the 2 different strategies in play right now.
Wow, this is exciting. Yeah, you got Katie on the front, then you got Kappa Kappa Gamma and Delta Sigma Pi just kind of getting a ride along right now.
Well, that's right. You know, Kappa Delta's making the race, but Kappa Kappa Gamma, they are sitting.
They're sitting sweet.
Third wheel, no responsibility.
They're sitting sweet with
Waiting
2 to
for
go.
The finish. 2
with
to
2
go.
to go.
Theta's still trying to catch on to the back there. That is definitely a hard moving. Kappa Delta going to keep going into the headwind. That's an interesting strategy.
I'm really impressed with Katie's strength, but it's just hard to drive it for 2 laps. You know, quarter lap track, that's a half a mile she's got to drive it for. She looks good right now, but she's got to train on her.
That's right. You know, Theta's just now made contact with the back of the group. We're going to come up. We're going to see the white flag pretty soon.
Oh, it's all coming together. Here we are. You see the white flag. 99 down, 1 to go.
For the women's Little 500 into the final lap.
Now we're talking about if Kappa Delta is going to take it from the front. Remember, Rick, we were talking about if you take it from the front into the headwind section. The rider who goes into turn 4 in the front has the best chance of winning, because when you come out of that turn 4, the finish line is right there with a big fat tailwind.
This is the headwind. If anyone's going to come around, this is when it needs to happen. Kappa Kappa Gamma is trying it on the outside.
And the push comes from Sauter. On the inside.
Pi Phi's with the tailwind. Nothing's going to change here, and here's your winner.
Pi Beta Phi takes it.
Unbelievable. Wow. We didn't talk about him all day. They were sitting in there, quietly watching, sitting on the wheels, not too much work, and there's your race winner.
I need to check on this, but I think this is their first championship. They sat in, and I'll admit, we did not target them much today.
Unbelievable.
And the celebration begins.
This is the first win for Pi Beta Phi. They've been in the race 15 times. Their highest placing is 5th. Great win for Pi Beta Phi.
That was impressive. You know, I mean, you got to hand it to Kappa Delta for taking the lead, really trying to, you know, use the headwind, tailwind advantage to try to win the race. But
KD was just gassed.
Well, yeah, you know,
she was just gassed, and rarely do you see him come out of turn 4 like that. I didn't expect it, but she had been on the front so many laps before that. I think she was just gassed.
Yeah, yeah. Got to give her some credit though for being really, really aggressive, but unbelievable outcome.
Carolyn Brown rode it to victory. Boy, that's the point you guys had made though, of just hanging back, waiting, lurking, hanging in there, and letting everybody else do the work, and coming down to that final lap to make your push.
Absolutely, you know, and we saw the race get blown apart so many times, and we were talking about Delta Gamma, we were talking about Wing It, we talked about the Thetas, but little did we know that the winners were sitting back there quietly, doing good exchanges, staying out of trouble, staying at the front, not doing too much work, and ultimately they came around the last corner and won the race, and that's who we're talking about now. You know,
here we are in the last. This is coming out of turn. This is 3, and then she's going to get a tailwind. Oh, you see, she's just got a lot of power. She's up in her seat.
It's great coming around to the finish.
And she's got it going into turn 4. Head down.
Not even close.
No way you're going to close it.
Not even close.
Pi Beta Phi, and that is Carolyn Brown on the front. This is her second race, so she had a little bit of experience that she used going into turn 4. She knew what she needed to do.
Yeah, I mean, definitely if you've got some good sprinting finish and your third wheel coming out of that corner, making the move is a good one to move. She did a great job. I mean, look at the crowd. They're just so excited.
Haley Baker, Carolyn Brown, Liz Mackey, Natalie Malone, the 4 riders, Pi Beta Phi. 16th appearance in the little 500, 3 times in the top 10. And now a championship, a little 500, and a victory to go with it.
Yeah, you know, we didn't really talk about them that much, and they've done the race quite a few times. You look at their team roster, they're a young team. They have 1 rider that's never done it, 2 that have done it once, and 1 that's done it twice before. I mean, relatively a young team, not a lot of experience in winning, but obviously a lot of experience in being in the right place at the right time.
In that second line, qualifying position was number 6. And you see the enthusiasm and excitement from all the sisters.
What a great event. I've never seen 100 laps go by so fast before. Considering that, my guess is that the overall race speed was slow relative to other years because of the wind. But I tell you, it was so much action, so many crashes. The exchanges, I mean, you could tell that it was just really rough out there with the wind and the conditions. You know, here's our unofficial results. Again, you know, we can't say that Teeter, they just really missed out.
Another year will have to go by and wonder what just might have been.
Yeah, you know, you see Delta Gamma in 6 and Teeter in 7, Wing It in 8. You know, all teams that we talked about the whole day, all with a history of either winning some of the qualifying events or obviously with Delta Gamma winning before. But, you know, that just doesn't always come out. It just doesn't always lead to a sure thing, and that's what's so amazing about an event like this. Like I said, all the stars and planets have to align perfectly. And for for the Phi Beta Phi. These guys really just nailed it today. It's just a great race.
You know, it's really, I think, what jumps out from an outsider's perspective is the amount of concentration and focus you have to have for an extended period of time. And when you're in there on the course competing, how quickly the bike can get away from you.
Well, yeah, I mean, we saw Theta go from being in the lead, you know, off the front to being off the back, then to again being off the front, coupled with all of the other chaos going on in the race, whether it was their own missed exchanges or exchanges around them. It's a lot of action, you know, that's why there's this whole army below us in the press box trying to keep track of everything.
Tired young women, but the best burn of the year right there. All the hard work and early mornings and long hours and rides and conditioning all comes down to 100 laps at Armstrong Stadium.
Well, there you see that the race time of 1 hour and 14 minutes and 44 seconds. A little bit off some of the previous winning record times, but it doesn't change anything about winning.
Still go in the books as the Little 500 2009 champions.
You know, it's great, and they have all of these trophies, and of course they talk about the Borg Warner Trophy, I think is what they call it.
Indeed.
After one of the major sponsors of the Indianapolis 500, and it's got all of the previous teams adorned on the side of it, and Phi Beta Phi is going to be on there now.
As we recognize our top 3 finishers for today's race.
And the winners get their name engraved, and the trophy stays on campus. But how about that for all the people, and you see the names in there who get to come back and show your kids or even your grandkids about where your name goes on that trophy.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's an honor that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives. You know, and it's not just about the winners and everybody on the podium. All of these teams, all of the girls will forever remember their Little 5 experience.
Kappa Delta
with Grainger as the corporate sponsor.
You know, it's great. We have Kappa Delta had Grainger as one of their sponsors, and it really does take a lot to keep a team going, and it's great to see that corporate sponsors getting involved and helping to put these events on, helping the teams get to the winner's circle.
Jennifer Balbach, Jenna Cerrone, Jim LaPlante, and Julie Pizzina.
Corporate sponsor, Dick's Sporting Goods.
Delta Sigma Pi.
Blackburn, Ariana Breckner, Catherine Rogowski, and Chelsea Sheldon.
You know, Delta Sigma Pi really rode a great race. You have to hand it to them. They were aggressive. They did great exchanges. They were in the race all day. It's great to see them come out on the podium.
Smiles all around.
And your 2009
and here are the champions.
It's the first Women's Little 500 Championship. Team number 6, Phi Beta Phi.
And the champions for 2009.
The team members, Haley Baker,
Jenna Blackburn, Ariana Breckner, Catherine Rogowski, and Chelsea Shelburne.
Liz Mackey from Bloomington, and Natalie Malone from Naperville, Illinois.
Waving the flag of their house. It's great to see their mechanic and their coach, everybody involved in the team. The crowd is really getting into it. You know, unlike some other sporting events, when it's over, everybody, you know, sticks around to see the awards ceremony. This is definitely not the end of the day for a lot of these teams and a lot of the girls here.
I think it's the beginning of the day for most of the students.
That's right.
First championship, Phi Beta Phi.
Holding up the Little 5 bike.
I think that bike will get a special place in the house.
Absolutely, probably somewhere right on the front of the front door.
We're going through the awards presentation now. The ladies have been presented by Gene Temple, president of the IU Foundation.
I'm pretty sure
and Jason Sean Bourne is down there sporting a red shirt, and he's got the champions with him. Jason?
All right, so I'm here with first-time champions, Pi Beta Phi. That was Carolyn Brown on the bike at the end. Carolyn, it looks like it's set up perfectly for you coming out of turn 4.
Yeah, it was a lot like missing out the series event. So I just kind of did exactly what I did there, sat on someone's wheel and then made my move back in the backstretch, and it worked out okay.
One lap to go. Was that your strategy to kind of sit in and then wait till turn 4?
I didn't want to like go ahead, and because I knew that the girls who were around me were definitely strong enough to stay on my wheel. So I just wanted to sit there and then go as hard as I could at the very end. So.
Well done. You certainly came around. Very rarely do you see people come around in turn 4. So you ladies only did 6 exchanges during the race. You must have been gassed. You guys were riding huge sets.
I mean, yeah, we were riding a lot of sets. Caroline, we have to thank for those huge 30-lap set at the beginning, 35-lap actually. So, I mean, we have a lot to thank. We worked well as a team, and I think overall, I mean, it worked out.
It worked out incredibly for you guys. You heard a 35-lap set and the win. Very rarely do you ever see that happening. Pi Beta Phi, congratulations, guys. That's awesome. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Dylan, wonderful afternoon, and that's one race in the books, and we look forward to the men's race tomorrow.
Absolutely. You know, I think it's really interesting that just to see what an effect the weather had. You know, previous years we've had rain and lightning. I think this is the first year that I've been here where it's had such a huge headwind on the backstretch. And, you know, you heard them talk about their first rider, Christy, doing a 36-lap set. I mean, that's really impressive, and ultimately that's a strategy that they had, and they employed it to perfection, and it really worked in their favor.
Our executive producer, HDNet, Daryl Ewalt. Today's producer of the Women's Little 500, Bo Vongson. Director, Hank Lena. Our production manager, Mike Hurd. Engineers, Dan Neighbors, Andy Miranda, and Glenn Moore. A special thank you to all of our people who have made this show come together here at Indiana University and the Indiana University Student Foundation. From our partners, Dylan Casey and Jason Sonnenborn, I'm Rich Cellini. Thank you for joining us here on HDNet for the Little 500. Pi Beta Phi wins the women's section, race number 1. We'll be back tomorrow with the men's Little 500 right here on HDNet.
You've been watching an exclusive high-definition presentation of the Little 500 on HDNet.